The Will-o'-the-Wisp, a Seneca legend by Charles Aldrich, appearing in the Knickerbocker Magazine, February 1855. Lo, the poor Indian whose untutored mind sees God in the clouds and hears him in the wind. A short distance below the Indian village of Cold Spring in the county of Cattaraugus, state of New York, and about a mile from the Allegheny River, there is a small lake or pond formed of the waters of an extensive marsh. The lake is filled with decaying vegetable matter, and, having no outlet, its waters become stagnant and discolored. Their somber hue impresses one with the idea that they are almost and quite fathomless. At times, strange lights may be seen floating above the surface and gliding about in various directions. Though easily accounted for upon scientific principles, they have ever been regarded by the unlettered red man with feelings of superstitious dread. The aborigines have a curious legend concerning this strange will-o'-the-wisp, which was once related to me by an old copper-colored friend as we were seated upon a little knoll at the southern extremity of the lake. Years have passed since its narration, but if my memory serves me correctly, its substance was as follows. Many hundreds of moons since, long before the pale-faces were known to the red man, a small tribe of Indians dwelt upon the beautiful savanna at Brady's Bend, about 70 miles above the present city of Pittsburgh. They were peaceable, industrious, and subsisted by agriculture and the simple acts of peace, and not, like many of their neighbors, by the shedding of blood in hunting and war. They delighted in athletic sports and games of various kinds, and were noted for their skill in the feats of dexterity customary among the Indians. They frequently invited the members of other tribes to compete with them at their festive gatherings. On one of these occasions a sad accident occurred, by which a Seneca warrior lost his life. Though purely an accident, this affair exasperated his friends, who determined to wreak a fearful revenge upon their peaceful neighbors. Accordingly, a band of Senecas armed themselves for the warpath, and floating down the majestic Allegheny to the ill-fated village, attacked it with unrelenting fury. An indiscriminate slaughter of old and young, male and female, ensued. Only one of the tribe, a dark-eyed, beautiful maiden, was saved from the general destruction. She had been seen and admired on a previous occasion by a young Seneca brave, who successfully exerted himself to bear her away unhurt from the scene of slaughter. When the marauding party returned, the Indian girl, sorrowful and weeping, was carried to the northern home of her captor. In a few days she found herself among his friends at Shawashangatu, Cold Spring, who sought by every means in their power to dispel the clouds which enveloped her brow. But their efforts were of no avail. Though she had previously admired her captor and had longed to share his fortunes, she now, as the slayer of her kindred and the desolator of her home, conceived for him the most intense hatred and disgust. She earnestly desired to return to her home, though she knew that naught but desolation and loneliness would meet her sight, and mingle her tears with the ashes of her loved and lost ones. She was closely watched, however, and for a time it was futile to entertain any idea of attempting to escape. But at length, to her great delight, a seemingly favorable opportunity presented itself. The family in which she lived became engaged in making sugar the spring after her capture on the bank of the little lake. Her captor, who intended soon to claim her for his wife, had built a light birchen canoe to float upon its placid waters, and they were in the habit of riding in this very vessel during the calm evenings of the early spring. A torchlight at the prow of the boat made every object visible for many a rod around them. These little excursions, had her heart been there, would have been delightful and romantic indeed, but she cherished a burning desire for revenge, which she determined to gratify at the first opportunity. One murky evening, while they were gliding over the lake, and he was using every artifice to win her affections and dispel the gloomy feelings which he knew were making her unhappy, she conceived the idea of murdering him, escaping to the opposite shore, and making her way home as best she could. When his back was turned in paddling the boat, she raised a stone hatchet which lay at her feet, and, striking him a severe blow upon his temple, he fell with a dull, heavy sound into the yielding water and sunk to rise no more. No sooner had she begun to congratulate herself upon her prospect of escape Then a gurgling sound at the bottom of the boat aroused her to the fact that it was filling with water. In falling overboard, the body of the murdered Indian, by its weight, had in some manner broken a hole through the bottom of the frail structure, through which the water poured with fearful rapidity. She shrieked for help and endeavored to stay the rushing water with her garments, but in vain. The boat sunk, the light was extinguished, and the unfortunate maiden and her lover slept side by side beneath the darksome waters of the Indian Lake. Many of the old Indians aver that frequently in the calm, still evenings of the warm portions of the year, the ghosts of the unfortunate maiden and her lover revisit the lonely tarn where this dreadful tragedy occurred, and that the scene of their departure to the spirit land is reenacted with graphic fidelity. Upon such occasions they are seen gliding along in a phantom canoe with a torch at the prow. They near the center of the blackened waters. A scene of apparent confusion ensues. Splashing sounds are heard, and shrieks, like those which come from the drowning. Soon the light sinks beneath the surface, and silence and darkness resume their reign over the misty mid-region. Olean, New York, January 1st, 1855.